Darby's eyes now wore their customary expression of detached amusement.
"You're going to have to get married," Bunge pointed out. "Course, that won't be too difficult for you, catching a rich one. Heard that there's a wool merchant putting his daughter on the market this season. Everyone's saying she's a woolly breeder."
He erupted in a cascade of high-pitched laughter. But Darby's eyes hardened into distaste.
"An unappetizing possibility."
He gave a little half-bow.
"Much though I adore your company, Bunge, I have an appointment this afternoon."
Cool bastard, Bunge thought to himself, but he let himself be propelled toward the door.
"Are you going to tell your stepsisters?" "Naturally. Their esteemed aunt is going to have a baby. Josephine will be delighted." "Does she know that the babe will do her out of a fortune?"
"I fail to see why inheritance issues should disturb a child still in the nursery."
"And you never know. Lady Rawlings might have a girl."
A pleasing thought, under the circumstances.
"You're a cool one. Don't know what I'd do if I had 2 girls to get off on the market and—"
"You would do admirably." Darby rang the bell, and his butler, Fanning, appeared with Bunge's coat, hat, and cane. As he walked back into his study, the mask of detached amusement fell from Darby's face. He had choked back his rage in front of the painted popinjay who had so delighted in telling him of his aunt's pregnancy, but anger swelled in his throat.
"God-damned bitch!"
The words burned like poison in his mouth. Whatever his uncle was doing in his wife's bedchamber, it didn't involve fornication. Rawlings had told him last July, just before he died, that the doctor had ruled out connubial acts, and since he'd been a little in his cups, he'd added that Lady Child was agreeable. No need to mention his wife, and he hadn't. His mistress, Lady Child, was the only person remotely interested in Miles's ability to shake the bedsheets. And yet he died in Esme Rawlings' bedchamber a week or so later, suffered a heart attack in his wife's bedchamber, and now the woman was increasing, waddling even. Doubtless the child would be born on the early side. The house party took place last July. If the child were Miles's, his wife was 6 months along at the most. And why would the elegantly slim Lady Rawlings be waddling at only 6 months, with 3 long months to go? Damn her for a lying jade. He didn't believe for a moment that Miles slept in her bed. Likely she sprouted the babe with another man and lured Miles into the room in order to confuse the issue of paternity. Miles never deserved that hussy of a wife he married. But he stuck by his wife, never flinched, as Esme Rawlings created scandal after scandal, refused even to consider divorce. There were people in London who thought Darby was an uncaring, dispassionate man. They judged him an exquisite, given the eccentricity and elegance of his clothing. They noted the ease with which he played the fashionable games of the temps, and the trail of broken hearts that followed him, judged him by whispered tales of debauchery and degenerate friends, told each other that the only emotion he ever displayed was vanity. Belying the gossips, Simon Darby stared at the mantelpiece with a look of such savagery that it was a wonder the china dogs didn't shiver into pieces. The man who pushed open the door to the study didn't seem to notice as he loped into the room and slung himself into a chair facing the fire. He was an olive-skinned, broad, brawny brute of a man whose only signs of his aristocratic birth lay in a crumpled neckcloth and a pair of fine boots. Darby glanced at him over his shoulder.
"I've not the inclination for company." "Stubble it."
Rhys Holland, Earl Godwin, accepted a glass of Madeira from the butler, with a grimace he used for a smile, and tossed off the glass, only to break into a fit of coughing.
"Damn it! Where did you get this hellacious wine?" "I'd rather not discuss household exigencies."
There was a note in Darby's voice that made Rhys blink.
"You've heard," he said, "that my aunt is increasing? Gerard Bunge just left the house. He suggested I marry a wool heiress, otherwise known as the woolly breeder. Blasted little gossip."